my years of ministry, almost 8 years now, there have only been a handful of times when I have needed to kind of completely scratch the talk that I had planned. I usually write my talks on Monday and kind of build it through the week until Sunday morning. But today is one of those days when I just had to scratch it and start over. My talk title did not change, however, because the experience I had this week support this talk title perfectly. Understanding, not required. So today, as we continue on the monthly topic of love, I want to tell you a love story. And actually, it's a different love story than the one I originally planned to tell you. I'll tell you that one another time. It's a good one. But before I tell you the story, I want to just talk a little bit about love. You know, I will probably be giving messages about love for the entirety of my ministry. As I said last week, God is love, and we're singing Love is My Decision all month. So as I explore the idea of understanding not being required, I'm saying that because what I have found that is, as a God being, and quite frankly, as a human being, I am called, and you are called, to love all, even if you don't understand. So many of us, as we were growing up, were taught a lot of things about love. And one of the things most of us were taught is that love is conditional, meaning that we are taught to express love when someone else is being lovable, and to withhold love when they're not behaving in a way that we approve of, right? So what that has us doing is kind of taking score and then, and only then, deciding whether we will love someone or not. What we can understand, what our brains can compute in an acceptable manner, we can love. Otherwise, we hold back. So here's the thing that slays me. One of the things that we do as humans is withhold love to a person because that person is loving someone else, a third person, or dinosaur, in a way that we do not understand, right? Maybe it's an interracial love that's really hard for some people to tolerate, or a polyamorous love that seems to be unacceptable. Many people have a problem with the current flow of gender fluidity and how love is expressed in so many ways outside of gender norms. And I have found people all my whole life to be a little squirmy about different sexual expressions and move away from those they do not understand. But I'm here to remind you this morning that understanding is not required. Your unconditional love is. Love is love is love. And love, the experience of love, is the most direct experience of feeling God itself. You know, so many spiritual teachers have taught this very thing. Hafiz, the Sufi Persian poet, writes a lot about love. And here's one quote that I absolutely cherish. He says, "The subject tonight is love. And for tomorrow night as well, as a matter of fact, I know of no better topic for us to discuss until we all die." Love, 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 love. So another thing I found out is that in Sanskrit, there are 96 words for love. The Persian language, Hafiz's language, there's 80 different words for love. Greek even has 3. But in English, there's only one. There's only one. Eskimos have 30 words for snow because it's such an important part of their lives. And they live so intimately with snow that it's a matter of life and death for them to understand exactly what element they are dealing with at this moment. 30 words for snow. So how expansive could our experience of love be if we were paying attention so closely that we could choose 96 different words to describe it? But the truth is, there's only one love. There's only one love, and that is God. That is God. And we try to categorize everything in our lives. We even love, right? It helps us make sense of things to kind of put them into category. So we may have one word, but we are able to put other words with it so that we can categorize it. There's a parent's love, a mother or father's love. There's this platonic friendship love, romantic love, passionate love, creative love, puppy love, kitty love for those who need cat love, to be fair. And the truth is, it's all of God's love of itself. Love is love. Holmes wrote this: love is within us. It cannot be destroyed. It can be ignored. To the extent that we abandon love, we feel it has abandoned us. Denying love is our only problem, and embracing it is the only answer. The sentence that jumps out at me in that one, I don't know about you, but is, to the extent that we abandon love, we think it has abandoned us. I would add that to the extent that we judge someone else's love that we cannot understand, we reveal our own lack of understanding of the nature of love. It's not a quote up there, but Holmes also defines love as the impartation of the divine through the human. The impartation of the divine through the human, that is what love is. The giving of God itself by human beings, that is love. I believe that is our purpose, to be God, to be love in every relationship, every situation. And I think our upbringing or our conditioning either makes the impartation of divine love through us easy, or it makes it hard. And I think that has to do with whether or not we were reinforced for being loving, or whether we were reinforced for being fearful. So not all families create the same dynamic about love and acceptance and understanding, do they? You know enough people to know that's the case. And this week, I became really clear about the impact of family dynamics in my own life. So let me describe. See, my father's family environment was one of fear, okay? Fear first, and only extend love if the person's worthy. That's my father's family. And since his mom was deeply fundamentally Christian, he was taught that God was judging, that God withheld love, that God's love was conditional, and approval and acceptance and all of that was only extended under perfect circumstances, right? They were taught to judge and fear outsiders with any differences. New people were not easily accepted into my father's family. Everything was black and white, right or wrong, good or bad, and that was his family. And since my father dominated my home growing up, that was our home environment too. Now, when I was growing up, I really wasn't around my father's family very much. But one thing I was very aware is that when there were disputes in their family or disagreements, one member of the family could completely cut off another member of the family, like not speak to them at all, not at all. They wouldn't speak any longer. We would never hear that person's name again. It was totally okay to emotionally sever ties with a family member that you disagreed with. So when I was growing up, my father wasn't talking to several of his siblings. He used stonewalling, silence, and abandonment as punishment, right? And I knew deep in my soul that if I displeased my father, his love could disappear in a flash to me, right? Now, take a deep breath. On the other hand, my mother's family, they were quite the opposite, right? They weren't religious at all. They still aren't. They're very liberal, welcoming all. There were a few rules in the big family, and their first response to someone new was like curiosity and openness, and in other words, love first, figure it out later, right? And so we always seemed to be in close proximity to my mom's family living like that, but we were still at my dad's house, right? So that was a little different. So I always kind of watched in awe at how my mom's sisters treated their kids and how the entire family, went through life experiences, just loving and supporting each other. And no one was perfect. Missteps happened all the time. People got in trouble, did different things, but everyone was so loving and sweet to each other. So my child's perspective, through my little child's eyes, I'm thinking, that's unbelievable. That can't really be real, right? So my father died when I was 19. And so that influence of fear left my life pretty early. Not early enough to keep me from internalizing this conditional love, that he taught. So around the time of his death, when I was 19, that's when I was figuring out I was gay, right? Okay, so thankfully I never had to come out to him because that would have been it. I can't know that for sure. You never really know what someone will do. But my assumption is that would have been a major problem. So that fear of that with him kind of transferred to other people. So here's where the love story comes in. And it's a story of unconditional love. And it's a story that really illustrates my talk title, which is Understanding Not Required. So after my dad died, and I have this all written down because I really didn't know emotionally if I could actually just tell the story, but I'm going to try. So after my dad died, there was about 10 months that went by before I came out to my mom, right? I desperately feared her rejection. I did. I was afraid. But I didn't realize at the time how influential her upbringing had been to her. And it turns out she was not like my father at all. Out of his presence, she kind of returned to her loving roots. And in our first conversation about my personal life, she indicated that while she didn't understand, and she was really clear, I don't get this, Laine, she showed me that she loved me and always wanted to know about my life, right? Yay, Mom. Unconditional love was her response. Her actual words were, I hope you find a woman that is as supportive of you as a man has always been to me. That was in the very first conversation that we had. So she made it. She did a good job. She knows it too. I'm totally So my mom's family consisted of her parents and two sisters. My mom and her sisters, Carol and Beth, they were quite a threesome. They've been here in the center a couple of different times, so some of you have met them. They're wicked smart. They're so much fun. They're hilarious. They're joyful. Bev, the youngest one, was only 15, 16 years older than me, something like that. So I often kind of tagged along with the threesome as a fourth, but I was always much younger. I was never their equal, but they let me play, right? They've always been three of my most favorite people on the planet. And any chance I have to be with them, I leap at it. So here we are a few years after I come out to my mom, sometime around 1990, my mom's sister Carol invited everyone to come to her house in Texas for a family get together. Cool, I couldn't hardly wait. A chance to be around the threesome sisters, fun. So by this time I had a steady partner, a girlfriend named Myra, and no one in my family except my mom knew. So, because Mom promised me that it was my story to tell, I could come out when I wanted to. She wasn't about to do that. That would be uncomfortable for her. So she just said, I'm not going to tell anybody. So I was faced with this dilemma. Do I go to this gathering at my aunt's house by myself? Do I decline the invitation altogether? Or do I go by myself and leave Myra at home? Do I take Myra and hope nobody notices that there's something going on, right? Or do I come out, right? Could I put my family love on the line? Now remember, these are like three of my most favorite people. So there was just a lot of at stake. And so since it was happening at her house, I called my Aunt Carol because I had more recently visited her. She lived in closer proximity. My Aunt Bev lived in a different state, a little bit farther away. So I called my Aunt Carol and I decided to explain the situation. And I vaguely remember that phone call. It wasn't the most impactful thing, but I don't even think she blinked an eye. I think she said something like, I've known forever. Come on, get real, whatever. Bring Myra, it'll be great, fine. But I still had to deal with my other Aunt Bev and my grandma, but that's beside the point. So I had to deal with my Aunt Bev. And so I had seen her less often. I felt a little bit less comfortable just doing this. And so I just stepped out on faith that I couldn't call her. I wrote her a letter. And this would turn out to be one of the biggest, most impactful lessons about unconditional love of my life. See, I know now that my experiences back in 1990 were formative, but at the moment, I'm just kind of living through them. And that my relationships with my mom's family had been a lifelong source of support, but at this turning point, I claimed them as more of my support. So as many of you know, my Aunt Bev died this week. I actually learned of her passing about 30 minutes after I got home from the mandala coloring on Wednesday night. And after I hung up from having several very painful and tearful conversations, I was trying to help Terry understand who my Aunt Bev was to me. And I remembered the letter that she wrote to me back when I was coming out to her, when I was trying to go to the family gathering. I remembered that letter. And I've quoted that letter occasionally in my life, but I wanted to find it. I knew I had it. So even though it was quite late, as you can imagine, I went to the garage and I found my box of sentimental things. And I went through it. Terry will tell you. I went through it letter by letter by letter. Grandma letters, mom letters, Kelsey letters. And this one little orange letter was in there. And I found it. And this letter was my introduction to the truth and power of unconditional love. That ability to say, I may not understand, but understanding is not required. Love is always here. So with the deepest respect, I will share this profound letter with you. And I pray that it illustrates to you what is possible when you come from your soul. This is my test for tomorrow. Can I lead this memorial service in one piece? We'll see. So this is what she wrote on June 22nd of 1990. Dear Laine, actually it says Lana, but that's another story. First of all, let me say I love you. I'll love you whether you're gay or straight, vegetarian or carnivorous, blonde or brunette, Christian or Jewish. I might even love you if you're a Republican. I love you because you're Lana Laine, my firstborn niece. Your lifestyle and relationships are secondary as long as you are happy and fulfilled. Now it's June 22nd. Sorry for the intermission. Work and family do so interfere with my spare time. As I was saying, I love you. Enough said. I'm sure you have agonized over telling us all, but I'm glad you did. I can't say I've known forever, as Carol did, but I felt it may be the case. I'm only sorry if you've wondered how we would feel. For a widespread family, I've always felt we were exceptionally close. Our feelings are open and fairly uncomplicated. Our love for one another is unconditional, even for Ron, stinker that he is. That's my little brother. He's a stinker. However, I can understand your reluctance to talk to Nana. That's her mom, my grandmother. But let me share this with you. When Jerry and I were separated, it took me over a year to tell her or Granddad. I guess I feared their disappointment in me, and I was afraid to tell them I had failed. But when I could avoid it no longer, and told them both, their reactions were the same I've given you in this letter. We love you as you are, no matter what. Give Nana a chance. She might surprise you. This she goes on. I haven't told the boys yet, her two sons, and I may not until after our visit in August. It's not that they would be rejective of you or Myra, but I'd like them to see you and how the same you are before they know. At their age, they are still finding their own sexuality and can make snap judgments. Plus, I want us all to enjoy our visit together and let everyone get to know Myra without preconceived notions. I'm looking forward to meeting Myra and having everyone together. I just wish Rick and the crew could be there. Till then, stay happy and know you have my love. See you in August, Beth. So I've cherished that letter for all these years. It's in perfect condition because I cherished it. I'm grateful for the unconditional love of my family. You know, in my life, I've been judged, and you have too, for many things, but not by my family. You know, Aunt Bev alluded to the judgment that she feared for getting divorced or ending a relationship. And I can tell you that when I had that experience a few years ago, my family flooded me with unconditional love then too. They knew that was important. I wouldn't say my family is overly spiritual. Matter of fact, I wouldn't say that at all. But their love is spiritual in nature because understanding is not required. So my lesson for you all today is really, really simple. As you let your soul or your inner spirit direct your life and guide your choices, choose love. choose love. If you can't see someone's lovability, figure it out. If anyone else on the planet has figured out how to love that person, challenge yourself to unconditional love. You don't have to understand to love. It's just not required. Love is love is love. So as I fly out this afternoon to Kansas City to preside over my aunt's memorial celebration of life tomorrow, I take your prayers with me when I go. And